Anything and stuff that's under composted or compost that's not finished yet, the plant doesn't really like it. It doesn't like raw ammonia gas, so this helps to neutralize that in your compost piles too. It's conditionally anaerobic, so it can go back and forth between oxygen and having no oxygen and oxygen. So it's a diverse microbe, and there's lots of species of lactic acid. It increases the solubility of your other fertilizers that you're using it with, and it can make phosphate soluble at rates of 100 to 200 ppm. So it's not just a small amount of the phosphates that it can neutralize. It can neutralize a good count of them. Activation of lab serum, or to make any activated EM1 type, is just 1 part inoculant, 1 part sugar source, and 20 parts water. It's the same recipe for the bubble hash water, and you'll learn that all these recipes are they're basically all the same, but and I'll tell you at the end, it's just vinegar, water, or there's very few water, but sugar pulls, and that's about it. Now, I didn't want to focus a lot on making the ferments because that's something that you can just look up the recipes for all these, any of the names or anything that's on that paper. You can look up the names of it, and you can look up the PDF, and it has all the recipes. They're pretty dialed as far as making it. So, fermented plant extract. FPE is a fermented extract of a plant sap in the chlorophyll. It's a rich enzyme solution full of microorganisms. Ideal plants to use are nutrient-dense dynamic accumulators. So if you're familiar with organic farming or no-till, then you're already familiar with dynamic accumulators such as comfrey, nettle, horsetail, and then our plant is actually the most ideal source for the crop, as NPK as well as mineral levels are perfect. These nutrient-dense plants, though, they have a place being fermented. And overall, in a living organic system, they're good for your land. They're proper for tilling up just stuff that you can't get to without machinery. So, and you can take any of these FPEs once they're finished, and you can mix them to make a final extract. So you can mix and match different things, clover. There's just you can look up anything and see what the NPK of it is, but then you can also just simple things like dandelion leaves or fruit or anything like that. You can go to just like nutrient calculators for your diet. You can just put those in, and they'll spit out straight out all the numbers that you want and all the vitamins and everything that's in that fruit and what's going to be broken down and given to you after you ferment the night. So that's a good way to look at it. Other than that, you have to send it in for testing, and they'll be able to tell you exactly what your ferments hold, but I just go by a method of just watching what the plants say and whether they want it or not. As far as when it hits the soil, if it's bad, the plant isn't going to want it. So you're just focused on growth stage feeds, and basically, as far as it's a theory of Master Cho's, but it's just from it's a natural farming theory of just watching plants. So, Fukuoka, he just watched plants, and that's where a lot of the ideas of no-till farming came in, and that's another form of natural farming, and all these things coincide. So these ferments aren't meant to be a standalone, and it says it right there in the front. They're meant to be used with living dirt, and to be used with mulching, and to be used with cover crop and worms, and they don't hurt worms. Actually, worms multiply, and bacteria and everything multiplies at a rate that's pretty far beyond just what you see normally. Even if you're an organic farmer, this would adding these things to your system take you to a point that's a little bit beyond that. So as far as the plant extracts, you just don't want to use green extracts from green plants in basically points of what they call vegetative overgrowth, and that's high nitrogen crop conditions. So when you see like ram horning, or like, your plants have too much nitrogen, you don't want to keep feeding them these things, because they're made basically just for growth stages. Next one is the fermented fruit juice. Fermented fruit juice is it's a fruit-based honey. It's artificial because you made it, but It is a nutrition activation enzyme, and it's very effective in natural farming, only using fruits as its main ingredient. And do not use citrus on highly acidic fruits, or highly acidic fruits on non-acidic fruit-bearing plants. So you don't want to use like acidic plants on cannabis or any herbaceous plant, really. It's just not something that they're going to appreciate. So the plants to focus on that are nutrient dense are like banana, papaya, mango, squash, things like that. As far as your fermented fruit juices, and other people are using all types of different things. It just, as far as you want to go with it, is as far as you can go. Focus on nutrient-dense fruit, sour unripe fruits for transition, because we talked about your body needs sour fruits if you're in a reproduction cycle, and so does the plant. So what's cool is Cho's used some of these things, like as far as fermented fruit juices and the cow phos and the phosphoric acid to help women who are infertile. So then they can intake these things and actually have aided in having children. There's no science behind it, but it's just something to think about. So when you're doing these, you want not to have big bubbles. You want small bubbles. That's a high enzyme count and all that. The other big important thing is oriental herbal nutrients. So that's what I showed you here. These are medicinal roots that you're focusing on. It's made from herbs which are full of energy and function to increase plant robustness, to sterilize and keep plants warm. So that means to sterilize is more, it's an antiviral. So if you ingest anything like ginger, garlic, cinnamon, angelica, licorice root, and turmeric, those things are going to help your system fight off pathogens, and most likely they won't even be able to survive through it. So this is a concentrated form. All these things are good. Look, you can eat them, you know? Like all these ferments, you can just taste them. Like none of them are bad. Like they aren't going to hurt you none. So, just something, like, you know what I mean?
We like to marinate our steaks in it.
Yeah, OHN is super good.
It really is.
So this is something that you can ingest every day. So like third world countries, people won't get sick no more, you know? And so you can just taste it. And it's just all those roots, and it's just like sour, you know, it tastes really good. It is really, huh?
More minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. So you use that at all times. It's especially useful when crops are weakened. And this is another thing, it stops plant viruses, mildews, pathogens, anything like that. They won't be able to reproduce in your system using these things. And it increases the essential oil production, the plant vigor, and the pest prevention. So all in one, you're getting all that in one. And in bloom, it increases the terpenes in your flower. So it literally boosts them. That's basically it for that. So the other things, I'll just go through this quick since we have a few more minutes. The fish amino acid, so you can take raw fish that you catch from the wild, and you can ferment them for the food that's in them. And so instead of buying a fish emulsion or anything like that, that's stabilized with sulfuric acid and phosphoric acid. So those two things are chemicals, and so they can't be organic, and usually there's urea in them and all that. So these are good for activating, enhancing microorganism growth, and you can use FFA continuously to increase yield and taste and fragrance in your bloom phase. And utilize redfish like salmon will yield a considerable phosphorus source. And if you want to make a nitrogen source, then you just use a blue fish or a white fish. And those will be nitrogen and full of amino acids and calcium. So you can use that. Phosphoric acid, that's mainly used for transition period. Improves sugar content in fruits. Just basic. You can look all this up for yourself. So it's kind of cool. And we went through the calcium a little bit. That's what I made for you. So that's breaking down what's in the shells into a rich liquid nutrient. You can do it with any shell. You can do it with your egg shells, but I find that the oyster shell has more pure calcium carbonate in it, so you get a pure calcium source. Seawater. Most people are scared of salt, so that's not really a big thing. There's a difference between sodium salt and salt from like the sea, or salt from seawater, or from mineral salts. So high mineral sources, seawater is a high mineral source, and it's been shown seawater has the exact ratios of mineral to sustain plant growth on land. So all the minerals that are floating in the ocean are exactly what you need to grow plants on land. Basically what it's saying as far as minerals. The effect of microbes in land meat is highly desirable and provides a high energy source of life. If there's no access to seawater, sun-dried sea salt is fine, pink Himalayan sea salt is fine, and those are all sea minerals. They are raw mineral salts, mindful. Other than that, they help with sweetening the fruit, things like that. And so mainly the main thing I'd like to focus on after that is that there's two types of ferments. There's vinegar ferments, there's sugar ferments, and then there's two ferments made with water. So seawater is naturally going to be water, and then water-soluble phosphoric acid is just sesame stems, charcoal, and then turned into a water mixture. And so sugar ferments, it's going to be half of the water, half of that to that, and that's good. And as far as after the fermentations, you just want to focus on soil remediation in your land and soil requirements. So instead of focusing on NPK, you want to focus on cation exchange capacity. So you want a 3-to-1 type of alfalfa to kelp ratio, 5-to-1 calcium to magnesium ratio, and these are all proven to be the best ratios for plant growth. These are things to shoot for. 6-part rock dust mixture. You want positive and negative charged ions in your rock dust mixture so that they can exchange cation and they can exchange nutrients across the board. You want to use proper mulching techniques. You want to use worms, legume cover crops, and be diverse in your cover crops. So other than that, you want to make your own compost, and you want to compost all your waste out of your house so that you're not wasting anything, and turn it into, you can turn it into the better than compost that you can buy from the store. You can turn all your food waste into that. So I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer when compost is like $20, $30 a bag for 1 cubic foot of good compost, and you can make your own.
Yeah, honey.
So on top of that, these methods with proper KNF fermentation techniques, dead land can rebuild in the fraction of a time compared to traditional organic methods. This is the main focus point. So if there's land dead agriculturally, we can heal the land within less than 2 years, 3 years. You can have usable land with quality yield coming back on the organic front. So no pesticides used, no salts, anything like that. Where main organic methods and traditionally it takes up to 10. So that's a 5 times faster turnaround. And that's really it. Everything that's in front of you is on that paper, and that will help you gain understanding as far as everything else. And hopefully what I had a chance to tell you helped as well. That's it.